And EA usually gets away with it, but I'm thinking people are starting to wise up to their bullshit and saying, hey, dude, EA, guys, eat a Snickers. You're being a bunch of cunts. I mean, I don't know what else I could tell you. You're really pissing me off here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 63 of the Thought Patrol podcast. Excuse me. I am joined by Shawn. It's just me and him tonight. We have a sensual after dinner night to speak to each other and hang out and talk to you all that are tuning in. How you doing, Shawn?
I'm doing. I have no new news. I've watched some new anime that I've been watching Konosuba with you, and I haven't played anything new that I can think of. I did get back into Trove. Geode's been playing that with Antony. If anybody's been a long-termer, they've listened to Antony talk, and Hector. But outside of that, it's been kind of
just another week.
Just low-key, okay. Financially strapped week.
Yeah. My week has been okay. It's been good. For games, I've delved into WoW finally. So I've been playing that, the new expansion, Battle for Azeroth. I've been enjoying it. I think that the quest writing, the quest design, and the areas have been really good so far, at least the Alliance side, because the Horde has their own shit that they do. Fuck the Horde. And I'm enjoying the game. I'm playing in with war mode on all the time, which as a healer isn't really the best idea, because if I come against a melee DPS like a rogue or something, I'm pretty much fucked. All I could do is delay the inevitable, because I just can't out DPS him, or hold myself alive long enough to the point where I can just survive his barrage and his cooldowns and then kill him slowly. I don't have especially as a holy healer, which isn't smart. Doing war mode as a holy healer, I should be disciplined, which is much better at PvP. But I'm just trying to quest. I'm really not looking to fight anybody, and I want the 10% experience boost. So I'm not going to turn off war mode. I'd rather every once in a while get ganked, die. I don't even put up a fight. I just sit there, let them kill me, and then respawn and go back to my body and respawn, because you really don't lose much for dying. It's just the enemy. The enemy gets some honor. You lose a little bit of durability, but I have a mount that I could repair my shit anywhere, so it's really not that big of a deal. So I'd rather keep the 10% experience boost and just keep pushing forward and leveling. I'm like last time I checked, I was like 115, I think, so I'm 5 off the final. It's a very slow process, but I'm enjoying. I started in Drustvar, which is a pirate area that has like a coven that is holding control over it, which is pretty cool. Like the final thing that you do for the area is you go up and you basically make this assault on a mansion where the leader of the coven is residing. It's like a spooky mansion, and you make your assault on there and eventually kill her. And there's another thing that pops up and stuff. So I've been enjoying that. I'm almost done with that area. I'm trying to completely open the map, because in order to, Shawn, you know how like in flying in Final Fantasy 14's not that hard. You just pick up some shit and then eventually you can fly in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me explain to you what you have to do in WoW to fly. So at least previously, we don't really know how it is now. I'm assuming it'd be the same thing, but every new area that they add all has a reputation. And once you complete questing in those areas, you'll be able to do daily quests in those areas. And then as you do that, you'll get more reputation for that area. In order to fly, you have to fully explore every area. So completely open up the map, which is basically visiting all the major areas in that one area. And then you have to get the reputation in that area to Exalted, which is like 5 levels of reputation, which is it's a lot of fucking grinding. It's nowhere near, or Final Fantasy is nowhere near as difficult as how it is in WoW just to be able to fly. I mean,
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, in Final Fantasy, you gotta visit some landmark areas so that you're familiar with the terrain, and then you can fly. Done. Like, that makes sense within context. But what you're talking about What the fuck does reputation have to do with whether your griffin's wings work or not?
I don't know. Like I literally have a gigantic fucking golden dragon that can flap his wings, and he can't get an inch off the ground just because I don't have the. But they make it a grind. I can understand why they would want to make it a grind, so they get that extra $15 out of you every month. But they do a good job of making it where even if you can't fly, you can still get around the area easily. Like they have the fast travel. They're called flight keepers, and they're basically kind of like what you were saying. You learn the terrain and you visit, but you do it through people. You visit these areas, and then these people, you can pay them, and it's basically a fast travel system, and they have them situated around the area. So you could
use that in Terra.
Yeah, so you could head to other places quickly, and you fly there. So you'll get on the mount, and you fly on their mount that you pay for with gold, and then that will take you a specific route to the area you need to go to. So it's still somewhat easy to get around. It's just you can't do it on your own. And sometimes the pass that you take with a flight master is kind of like all over the fucking place. Like it's not a straight line go over the mountain. It's like go in between the crevice and through the stream and all this other bullshit where you can just go straight over, but they don't want you doing that. They want to you have to take your own specific path until you can fly yourself. So like I played a lot of Legion. I want to think like not as much as others, but I put probably about 100 hours into Legion, and I still wasn't exalted enough, or I didn't have everything enough where I could fly. So it's definitely a grind indeed. I want to get it done with as fast as possible in BFA, because unless they add a new area, for the most part, you'll just be doing everything in these 3 new areas that they added, and whatever else that you get to go through. And once you can fly, you can fly. So you're good to go for the rest of the expansion for the most part. So that's good. What else? So I've been enjoying it. I've still only played as a healer. I'm kind of getting an itch to try a DPS, but I haven't taken that delve yet. Because another thing about WoW that annoys me compared to Final Fantasy, and it's not that big of a deal. It just bothers me. Is that when you want to do something else, you completely restart a character. So you have to make an entirely new character that looks different, all that shit. And that's not awful, but you lose everything, reputation. So say if I get exalted on all my things on my healer, if I decide to make a DPS, I don't have any of those perks anymore. I mean, I get to keep my mounts and account-based things, but the rest of it, I don't have any of that. I literally have to restart. So if I get everything done in BFA and then go back to do a DPS so I could do like raids as a DPS in BFA, I'd have to completely redo all that exalted shit and all that. So that's kind of pushing me away from doing it. I probably will eventually, because I see people play rogues and play death knights and shit like that, and it looks really fun compared to me, where I just throw heals for the party. And it's a good role. You queue for dungeons quickly, you're useful and stuff and all that, but it's just it especially while you're questing, it takes forever to do anything. You fight a boss, you'll never die because you'll be good. You'll always have a way to heal yourself. You will never fucking die. But you will take ages to kill anything that's relatively resilient, so you just have to take your time. Now, for those of you that do play WoW, you just, we'll play Shadow Priest. I'm like, well, I don't want to fucking play Shadow Priest because I think Shadow Priest is boring. So, I don't know. That's fine. I probably will eventually make a DPS, make him like an elf, a rogue, like what everyone does and shit like that. But I'm enjoying it. I do eventually want to go back and play Final Fantasy. I did promise Nick and Hector I would play World of Warcraft for this expansion, so I do have to give them enough time where we'll do stuff together like we have been. But I do want to get back to Final Fantasy because I really fucking enjoy Final Fantasy, mostly because I'm more of a fan of the Final Fantasy lore and world than I am of the Warcraft universe, just because I never spent any time in Warcraft. But given all that, I still do enjoy WoW, and I am enjoying playing it and the time spent doing the questing and stuff. The questing has been fun. It hasn't been completely awful, although there are some quests that are absurdly stupid for the idea for what's going on. Like there's one where you have baby turtles hatching, and you're on like a little cannon. You're shooting shit at birds to prevent them from killing the turtles. You know what's going on? A fucking war between the Alliance and the Horde, and here you are, the champion of Azeroth, the champion of the entire world, and you're saving turtles from being eaten by birds. And I'm just like, what? What the fuck? Like seriously? Like I can like the other one, the thing with the witch coven. You're trying to get Kultiris's or these areas. You're trying to get these areas in Kultiris, trying to get their support for the alliance. So it makes sense. Solve some of their problems. They might help you. So that's what you're doing. You're solving the problem with Drustvar's witch coven, and you're trying to remove them so they can help you fight the horde. That makes sense. But these turtles, it makes no fucking sense. I don't know. It's some of the quests are weird, and I know you have to just give people something to do, so they have shit to do. But I just found that odd. But the rest of it's been pretty good. I like the areas. The areas all are very pretty and well designed. I give WoW for shit for looking bad, although it doesn't necessarily look bad. I just don't think it looks good. But I do like the design of these areas, and I thought the areas in Legion were pretty, and I thought the areas in BFA were pretty. So I've been enjoying it. Besides that, I'm thinking what else for the streams. Excuse me. For the streams, we recently started playing Tales of Berseria. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's
Berseria.
Okay, but it's basically like a additional story for the Tales of Zestiria like line of story. It's like it follows one of the characters that exists kind of in Tales of Zestiria. But
It's the first chapter of the storyline. It takes place a generation before.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'm fucking enjoying it a lot. Like, because Tales of Zestiria was good. And I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the combat, although it was a little sluggish. A lot of the Tales games, like their combat is like, it feels like it's trying to be an action RPG, but it's still trying to also keep the spirit of somewhat like a turn-based kind of thing, because you have stuff that charges, kind of like Chrono Trigger, the way they do it in Chrono Trigger, except not as well done. But Berseria goes a little bit further to it.
Chrono Trigger was a turn-based RPG. It just gave it a visual appearance of more action, when in reality it was just fully animating your action sequences instead of it just being click, run over, attack, go back. It was a lot more animated, but it was 100% a turn-based experience.
Yeah, but wasn't it also...
Tales borrows from Star Ocean a bit.
Mm-hmm.
At least from what I recall. The last Tales one I actually fully played was Tales of Symphonia on GameCube, and if I remember correctly, your characters charged in from the left, enemies attacked from the right, but while you would issue commands and they would do those actions, and then there would be a wait period where they'd kind of dance around and dodge and jockey for position until they were able to attack again. Because turn-based really makes the combat a little bit more realistic, because some things move faster than other things, at least to me, but it also slows things down for strategy. But that's where I think Tales got its original inspiration from, is if you play any of the old Star Ocean games, your characters will move around while they're waiting to take attacks, and you can go and manually tell them to do stuff, or you can leave it on auto and change the AI and shit like that, which Symphonia did something similar.
Yeah. They've done that in all of the Tales games, that managing your AI for your team. But like I was saying, Berseria kind of goes more of a combo based. Like there's still like the way they do it's interesting, because the way it works is you have souls that you build, or SP. And as you fight, what happens is the enemies also have souls. Now, if an enemy's weak to a certain attack, which you build throughout your combo, because you have 4 combos, and as you level, you learn moves, and you could literally construct your own combo. So say if you know the area has things that are weak to fire in it, you can make a combo personal for that area. So if you need to dispatch something quickly, you can just put a bunch of fire moves on one bar. Now, the thing also with that is stronger moves conserve more soul points, so you'll have like a soul point, and it will stretch out to 5 soul points, but each soul contains a certain amount of points within that soul. So some combos will not use just 1 soul, but like a soul and a quarter, or some combos will use like half of a soul. But if you're actively in the combo, it kind of ignores that. But if you're trying to start a combo, that's when it takes into effect how much soul you're using. I think it's cool how they do it. The only thing that I have is you only start with 3 points. So you can't do a full combo. Like you can't do all 4 attacks. You can only do 3. So it kind of feels like the game is stopping you from doing anything until you finally acquire that first soul. Now, eventually you get an ability that what you do is it's really cool, like, and it feels badass. But you're playing Velvet, which is the main character girl. She's got, like, if you've ever seen the show or anything, she's the girl with the big demon hand that can consume demons and stuff like that. She's a fuck. There's a word for her that she says. She's a demon.
She's
but she's a certain
the
type.
Same thing as the guy from
Zim. He bark. He protect.
Mute the mic.
But he also attack. I'll look it up while you do that. But fuck, what is her name? Velvet from Tales of Berseria. Okay. Chat.
She is sort of in Zestiria, sort of.
Yeah, she's there a bit. I'm just trying to think of what she's fucking called. Like,
well, her spirit is
a Therion.
There's only one character that exists from the first game to the second game, and they came out in reverse order. But the character that exists in the second game from the first game is the one that dies, and then the blind one,
mm-hmm.
and then that other guy, the other wind guy, takes his place.
Yeah.
The dude with the chest tattoos, the badass male stripper anime guy.
Yeah. So the word I was looking for was Therion, which is a type of demon that consumes other demons, and she uses her hand to do it. I didn't know she was immortal, but I haven't played enough of the game. That's fine.
Well,
that's what it says.
Immortal's a strong word.
Occupation, Lord of Calamity.
Yes, that's it. Well, the thing is when you defeat the Lord of Calamity, you become the Lord of Calamity.
Nope, spoilers. Whatever. I think it.
If you know what the Lord of Calamity is, you already know that.
Yeah, she can die, but it's not from age. That's what it is. But she could die if she doesn't eat or if she takes enough damage. It's immortal in the fact that she can't die from age. As long as she's consuming demons, and she won't die from age. Which is kind of a shitty thing. But hey, so what you can do is, back to the combat, is as you're fighting, you can sacrifice a soul. And what it will do is it breaks open the combo limiter, right? And it also resets your combo. So say if you have 3 souls, you use 3 attacks to consume those 3 souls, but at the end of your combo, you use the combo limiter breaker thing, which is she'll like bring out her arm and start fighting with it. And what it will do is you will sacrifice one of your souls that you've built up and give it to the enemy. But when you do that, it resets your combo chain, so you can break right into another combo, but it's not affecting your soul at that point. So what you can do is, and the moment you kill an enemy that you gave a soul to, they will return the soul to you. So say if you do 2 attacks, you break the combo and go into another 3, and if you kill that enemy, it will give you back the soul. So if you do it smart or intelligently, and you sacrifice your souls like in like according to a plan of some sort, you can easily rack up 5 souls as long as you're focusing the weaker enemies. And also, a lot of those attacks, when you do enter that like beast mode, you they're all AoE. So like you do huge attacks. And the cool thing is, depending on who you hit with the hand, you can get a different ender to the combo once you do finish the combo. So if you hit like an aerial enemy, like a bird type enemy, because every enemy has a type to them. So if you hit like a bird, you get like a thing where you'll push air up from the ground and shoot like these feathers in like this huge cone in the air once you lift all the enemies. If you hit a demi-human, you do like a jump back and you set like a line of blue fire on the ground to exorcise the demi-human, and you kill them that way. Or if it's like an enemy that's like, I don't remember what it is, but the word is that they use in the game, but it's like a type of enemy that's like really like a tank kind of thing. They're armored or something like that. What you do, ooh, bless you. You put your like demon hand on them, and you like teleport past them, and you like create this ripple that like rips through them. It's really fucking, like, they're all like super fucking badass. There's one where you create like a tornado that lifts everything up in the air. So you feel like a badass playing, but it definitely feels super action RPG more than like Like, a lot of it is, let me build up my combo and just fucking wreck everything. And then once you get into kind of the boss fights, then you have to be a little bit more strategic with what you're doing. But it's definitely a super fun game. The story is very dark right off the bat, which is super cool. So it's enjoyable. Sean, that's the other group calling. That's fine.
Yeah, the Bersaria was definitely darker because they had a lot of holes in Zestiria, and they didn't immediately explain to everybody that bought Zestiria that it was only part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Zestiria had an assload of content, so it's not like you can be super angry at the fact that it's not super complete. I do get Perry's input on games where he says if you're going to release a game, it needs to be a complete story, and Zestiria was missing huge chunks of story so that even when you beat it, you got it, you understood it, but there was still large plot holes that you didn't really understand. You didn't get everything's motivation. You didn't know why the Calamity guy was the Calamity guy, or why things had turned out the way they did. It was just a huge opening to smooth out the story. And when they released Bersaria, that was the first part of the story, and it filled in all of the gaps. So if you are going to get into the Tales games, especially those two most recent ones, you should buy them together. And do get the DLC, because the DLC is fantastic in those.
Yeah, I really am enjoying it. And for it only being, I think I spent $12, because Humble Bundle does a thing. If you don't know, Humble Bundle is a website that they basically support charities with game purchases. So they'll do deals, and with those deals, what they'll do is a percentage of the money that you spend on Humble Bundle goes to a charity of your choice. Like, you can pick from a list of charities, and a percentage of that money will go to that charity, which is really cool. Now, they recently introduced something called Humble Monthly, and it's basically a loot crate, but it's of video games. So for this month, they had Sniper Elite 4, Tales of Berseria, and another game called Staxel, which I haven't really tried yet. And what you do is it's $12 a month. You can decide to cancel it whenever you want, and you get those games at that point for that $12. Now, the cool thing is throughout the month, what they'll do is they'll slowly release more games. So, like, they also added The Surge, and they added a few other games. Some games I haven't really heard of, but they'll keep adding games to that as you stay subscribed, right? So they kind of incentivize you to stay subscribed the whole month, because then you can get the additional games they release throughout the month if you're subscribed at that time. So that's super cool shit right there. And then they basically just give you a Steam code. You go on Steam, activate the product, and there you go. You have the game. So I originally intended to get it for Tales of Berseria, which is cheaper than what it would have costed on Steam. And on top of that, I got Sniper Elite 4, I got Staxel, I got The Surge. So it's a really, if you own a PC and you're looking for a way to kind of bulk up your Steam library or give yourself stuff to do, I really recommend Humble Monthly. It is such a cool thing. Also, on top of that, if you're subscribed, you get 10% off the entire fucking store, stacking with sales. It's insane. It's such a good deal. And if you really are looking for just games to play or things that are more obscure that you really haven't heard of that you'd like to give a try, definitely check out Humble Monthly. It's super fucking awesome. I love it to death. It's such a good service. They're not sponsored, by the way. That's just straight from me using the product to you guys. I think that's super fucking cool, and I really enjoy it for what it is. So that's how I got Tales of Berseria. And again, we were streaming it, so it's a fun stream game. I enjoy it because it's something that you can easily look over and talk with chat if you need to, or take a moment. It's not like if you were doing like League of Legends or Fortnite or anything that's like bigger, you can't, it's harder to pay attention to your chat because you have to be more focused on the game. With Berseria, you don't really have to do that unless you're reading the story or something. But I really enjoy it. It's fun. And it looks really good. Like Tales of Zestiria, it was okay. It looked okay. The models were a little and the areas were a little But I think Tales of Berseria definitely took a step up, especially with the character models and animation. There's a lot of detail that went into, especially these games that are larger. Like usually JRPGs are quite large. A lot of times the animation would suffer because they have to animate like over 100 hours of gameplay or of things that you're doing. but it holds up very well so far, and I'm really enjoying the game. The models look fantastic, and it's overall a very fun and quality game. I like it a lot, and I've been enjoying playing it, especially with you guys that tune into the stream and hang out with me while I do play it. It's been really fun. So that's about it for the games that I've been playing this week. I've been really enjoying them, though. I'm super keen to get back to WoW, get back to grinding. Also get back to Zestiria and play some, or Zestiria of Berseria and play some of that. So I'm glad that you can join me, Shawn. I know you're still muted. But what was I going to say? Let's go ahead and get into the rest of this podcast, the meat and potatoes. But first, we got to get to our housekeeping. So, if you like what we do here, there's a couple ways that you can connect with us to stay updated on what we do here. So, first, Twitch streams. Like I said, we stream on Twitch multiple times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and fucking Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time to either 12 or 1 in the morning. So if that sounds interesting to you, I know I apologize, EU, if you are listening and you are in the eastern side of the country or the side of the world, I do apologize for that. But with my schedule with work and school, it is not the easiest thing to stream earlier in the day. Oh my goodness, earlier in the day. So that's the best we can do for now. But if you do like the sound of that, hanging out with us live, checking some of the games we play, we do special events like Friday night. We do horror games, which is both a detriment and a benefit to the channel, because problem with the horror games is since it's just a bunch of indie ones, you can't really label it as a game. So you're literally just streaming nothing on Twitch, and the only people that you'll really ever attract are people that know what you're doing. You won't really ever find additional people. I like doing it for the community, but like there's just some days where people are busy and like no one can show up, and that it just feels like a waste of a day. You kind of get if I'm just playing a game by myself, that there's literally no way anyone else can tune into, just because it just wouldn't work like metrics wise and shit like that. But I still enjoy them nonetheless, and I love playing through indie horror games just because it's interesting seeing what someone put together. Like there was one that you're like an iron soldier and you're working through this shit. You eventually fight an angel. It's all really interesting and super atmospheric and weird, but it was super cool. There was one that I played that was really fucked up. Like it was about a priest that was kicked out of the Orthodox Church or whatever, and he went around murdering and killing little boys and doing the bad thing to them that usually you'd associate with a priest that does bad things to little boys. And that game was entirely fucked up and creepy, and we played it on stream, and I was very uncomfortable the entire time. But there wasn't anything bad. Like there wasn't any imagery that was bad. It was just all implied, and it was just very creepy. If any of this sounds interesting to you and you missed it, if you go to the Friday streams that we do, there is a VOD that is saved, so you could watch the entirety of the stream even after it has gone, after we've gone offline. So if that sounds cool, you want to see some of the horror games that we did check out every Friday, you can still do that. You can check the VOD afterwards and check out that way. We also have a Discord. If you want to hang out with the community, talk with some of the hosts personally, or I guess as personally as you can over the internet, feel free to join our Discord. All the links to all this shit will be in the description below on anywhere that you're tuning into us. If we talk about something this week that interests you or that you have an opinion on, feel free to leave a comment below on YouTube or some of the podcasting services that do that. Also, feel free to...
We're also on Facebook.
We also are on Facebook. I need to write that into this thing that reminds me of what to talk about. We are on Facebook. We have both the main page and the sister page, The Streaming Geek, on Facebook. If you go over to, I think it's at Thought Patrol Podcast on Facebook, you could find us there, or you could just search up Thought Patrol Podcast. You'll see us over on Facebook. We have a page. We put announcements up there. When we do reviews on this, the sister page, we link those on there as well. Definitely another way of hanging out or checking out what we're doing every week. We also have a Twitter, at ThoughtPatrolPD. Check out what we do. Again, these are all mostly for announcements. We don't really do anything special through Twitter. Maybe if I'd like to do a poll, I'd usually probably do the poll through Discord. And finally, iTunes reviews. If you want to help us out, Feel free to give us a review that matches what you think of our show. We'd love to hear some actual feedback from anybody, or you could just go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I would take that as well. I will not take that. So, yeah. Whew, man, that was a doozy. But we do appreciate you all for tuning in. And feel free to check out those ways of connecting with us, kind of talk with us, let us know, hey, there are people that are listening to you guys. You're not just screaming out onto the void of the interwebs. Kind of get what I'm saying? Okay. Oh, it's been a long day.
You feel me? All right, cool.
It's been a long day. All right. So first, we have a mailbag question from our boy Sam. Always coming in clutch with the question. First, if you want to submit a question to us for us to read on the podcast, it could be literally fucking anything. We would talk about it. You could do that through Discord. You could do that through our email, ThoughtPatrolcast@gmail.com. You could do it through Twitter, like I spoke of before, @ThoughtPatrolPD. I don't know if you can do it on Facebook. You probably can. I don't know how Facebook works. Or you could leave a comment on YouTube, all with the hashtag TPMailbag. So we know you want it read on the podcast, stay for the podcasts, and we can read it here. So first, we have Sam. Okay, what are your future plans for the podcast and overall brand of the Thought Patrol? If the channel and podcast were to grow exponentially, what would you do? Now we've talked about things that we've wanted to do before with the show. Shawn, do you have anything in particular that if we did get big, something you'd like to introduce to the weekly routine we do here?
Well, I mean, we'd be doing it as a full-time job or a part-time job at that point. So there's nothing we couldn't introduce. I'd get equipment, so it wouldn't all be on you. We could do a variety of different shows. We could incorporate more people's schedules. I mean, it just overall that it would just allow us to do more of what we want to do. I can't imagine things I wouldn't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, we could do game shows. We could do challenges. We could do...
Zim's super active tonight, man. He wants to talk. Let his voice be heard. He's like, let me speak to the peons. We'll come back to Shawn.
Every time someone comes out into the room, he talks, which is why for 2 hours a week I try and reserve this time for people to not come out in the room. But that is not happening successfully today. I apologize.
That's fine. So what were you saying?
But yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to do because there's a lot of inspirations I have on YouTube, like things that I legitimately have a huge amount of appreciation for. I've gained a lot of love for, and whereas I'm not trying to copy someone else's material, there's a lot of what I've seen out there that I would like to make my own, to do something a little different with. And I like the family element of the Game Grumps, and I've always wanted to I don't want to do what the Game Grumps do per se because that's their thing, but I've always wanted to have an ensemble, I think is what the word I'm looking for, to do something like kind of like a little bit of what we've done with the podcast, but even more so, to be able to do like those kind of group activities and the game shows, the let's plays, like all of that are things I'd like to do. Plus, I'd also like to do some interesting comedy bits that I haven't seen people do, or that I haven't seen them do much of, things that I've seen PewDiePie play with. I'd like to do my own ideas on those concepts, but mostly it would be being able to commit more time to it, more resources, have a setup to, because if we've got more people doing it, we've got more resources to do it, we're able to put more content out there. It's not all in just what you're capable of doing and when I'm free. And I think taking a little bit of the weight off your shoulders and being able to contribute more would be is a kind of an important goal for me in the first place. But if we were doing a lot better, I would be able to do that.
Oh yeah,
it would definitely speed up the process enough. And I think that with the unique grouping of friends that we have with us doing better, they would be able to take part too, because we might be able to offer them jobs, you know. So I think that would be a huge benefit, because when you get, like, I mean, obviously Jonathan has a career, so he wouldn't be able to stop in any more than he does now. But there are some individuals out there that have been able to add a great amount of levity, like John does, but can't stop in because they have to do this, you know, this or that, or
Yeah.
they've got schooling going on, or various things like that. That I think we could work around a lot easier with that. The sky would be the limit, man. There's nothing I really don't want to do. It's just the availability to do so would increase greatly.
Yeah, I would love to do one of our first like big goals is obviously to either through crowdfunding or any other way that would be available would be to get like Shawn equipment would be awesome. So I would like to eventually have it where we do straight up voice. Like if we get Shawn a decent laptop, get him that would come with a webcam, and do voice or video over Discord. I'd love that. I think that'd be super cool, having everyone's faces open at all times. The reason we don't do video now is because usually there's only 1 to 2 people here, and we're talking with 1 to 2 people over the internet, and it just be weird if you have one person actually talking and the people on video just kind of sit there not fucking doing anything. You kind of get what I'm saying? So that I would like to be able to do that, get like full on like video calls going on. I think that'd be really cool. I love doing the streaming now, but it'd be super cool to get like days where we can get everyone together for a stream, or days which we have done here and there. Like I know when we do the Red Strings Club, I've tried to find games that everyone can participate in, that we can have fun with as well, like Valhalla and Red Strings Club. Really enjoyed both those. We haven't finished Red Strings Club, but I enjoy both of those games because they offer that, and it makes it simple because we could do it over Discord. It's not that difficult, and we can still provide some form of content that's different than someone just sitting there playing the game. Through those interactions that we can provide, which I think is cool. I'd like to be able to do more stuff like that. I'd like to be able to stream more, especially if it was at the point where it could supply livelihood for all of us here. We definitely have. I'd probably stream every fucking day if that was the case. I would not have a day where I didn't stream.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of it is getting better equipment for everybody. I'd get an actual mic. Not the one that I have currently, which is just a Blue Yeti, which is decent, but it's mid-range. I'd like better equipment. But again, I think the sky's the limit. I would love to move into things like skits or like pre-planned content, stuff like that. Yeah,
man. And charity work, dude. Like incorporating charity work into what we do. Because if we're doing well, like I love being able to do things for the community that's put us there, and to use some of that benefit that we've been able to reap to help. Yeah. And I've seen so many awesome things, especially Markiplier does an assload of it. PewDie's done some. Like I've seen what these major names have done, and that just seems like such an exciting opportunity. That would be a big thing that I would love to do too.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. But yeah, that'd be probably some of the larger things for us. We do have plans as if we do grow and get bigger, for stages of things that we'd incorporate as that happens. I'd also like to get to a point where we can do multiple shows a week. We were talking about this earlier, but as of right now, because of the restrictions that the company we use to host our RSS, it's not feasible to do 2 shows a week, but we would like to do it where we have one that's straight like news and stuff like that, and then we could have like a side one where we talk about our hobbies or things that we enjoy doing or things that we're seeing in that area. As of right now, we just kind of smushed the 2 together and make a 2-hour show. But it'd be cool to, like, what we said exactly is do like an hour show that's news, a main topic, and maybe a little bit of our weeks. But then another show later in the week that's an hour long as well, that is straight up what we've been doing, games we've been enjoying, what we're looking forward to, things we're looking forward to in the gaming market, or things that we're seeing changing and stuff like that. Like full on And I even thought of a name of it, which is it's really stupid, so I'm not going to say it because I'm going to embarrass myself. But so we can have
No,
like
this is our podcast. That's all we do is embarrass ourselves.
I was thinking like instead, so we have the Thought Patrol podcast, the main thing, and then like the side one can be called like Thought Talks or something like that, like one word. It's THO.
It's not terrible.
No.
I think that having a talk show would be good. Maybe like something focused more on comedy, like skits, like what we were talking about. Like I think there's just so many awesome possibilities.
Yeah, definitely
with all of that.
And I would like to get back into doing YouTube again. The biggest thing wouldn't even be resources as in money. It'd be mostly time. Like if I could not work during the day, it'd be a lot easier to get down, record something, and set up and edit a video together. Because a lot of what I was seeing, the reason I stopped doing the YouTube is a lot of it became more of just getting a video out, and it wasn't about making the video interesting, right? It was just edit the video and just get it out there because we were doing, because it was so busy with everything else. So I stopped that entirely. Because I didn't want it to be like that. I'd rather it be something that I could actually put time, effort, and actually have some kind of pride in when it comes to editing, because I enjoy editing a lot. But at that point, that editing was not the editing that I wanted to do, kind of thing. So that's why I stopped doing the YouTube and I moved over to the streams, because we could still give you guys something that I could actively influence instead of something that I wouldn't have time to influence in post. So that's kind of one of the reasons, hey, if you didn't know why the YouTube videos go away, that's kind of one of the reasons there. Now, again, if we just had more time, maybe as I get out of school, I'll have more time on that end, but I'll still be working. So I don't know. But again, if we do ever get big, 100% sky's the limit. There's so much stuff that I've thought, just as I was sitting down thinking about the show, that I thought would be super cool to introduce. And I would love to have special guests and shit, dude. I'd love to be able to have enough of an influence where we can get someone to come on the show that is like big, that we could talk to and hang out with. I would love that shit. Oh, excuse me, man. I'm a really bad burp for some reason.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
I mean, we could expand our content. We could have like segments dedicated to music. I happen to know of a freelance music journalist that would have things to contribute. It'd be so fucking awesome. That'd be really fun.
That's
and the involvement with the community is something that I wasn't aware of how enjoyable that could be because up until you pretty much manhandled me into coming on to Twitch, I really it wasn't something that attracted me. Like, gaming has always been something that you do with people that are there, but that was more of an extension of that thing we came up with where, watching a movie or something together, when we kind of pseudo pioneered that whole process that felt more along the lines of that, only I could read people's feedback, which is pretty cool. I think would be interesting is if we could set it up, and I know it's possible, but I'm not sure how we would do it, with like a phone system where like people could call in and jump onto the stream for a little while with us.
Yeah, that's entirely. It's actually super manageable through Discord, and I know exactly how to do it. It wouldn't be difficult at all. Like, I know exactly how to do it. It's like
I think that'd be cool.
Discord is such a fantastic tool for communicating with the people that are interested in your content. Like, it blows me away how much it offers, at least for free, for completely free on the desktop site. That's why I like supporting it with Nitro, and paying that $5 a month, because it's offered us as a small group so much in the forms of actually talking with the people that hang out with us. And no, I know entirely how to do that, where you could easily get someone into the call for the stream for like, I don't know, like a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute timer, and then switch to someone else and just kind of rotate between people and hang out with them that way as well. Or even if we do like a live recording of a podcast on Twitch, where people can tune in and watch, but also have people call in as well while we're recording like the Thought Talks segment which is like the separate one that's just us chilling for an hour talking about shit like that. It's all entirely possible. I know exactly how to do it. It's really not at this point realistic because we don't have that interaction. We don't have a big enough community that would offer interaction for that long. So, but yeah, definitely. I would love to see some growth in any way, shape, or form. It'd be super cool. And the thing with podcasts are nice because you could always just put your voice out there, and then sometimes people can stumble across it at any outlet, like from anywhere, and just kind of tune in and like listen to you that way. But the downside of that is that like it's very, very like lurker friendly, I guess, because someone can listen to your podcast for a year and you wouldn't know they ever existed besides like a number on a screen that's like, oh, hey, they tuned in here. Which is why I liked starting the Twitch streams, because those people can actually come in. You have a name to put to whatever someone's saying, and you can directly interact with that person, which is why I enjoy Twitch so much. So yeah, that's that. I guess we've been on this a little bit too long, but thank you for the question, Sam. I do appreciate it. Hopefully we kind of gave you an idea of what we're going to do, but it's okay. It's the podcast is never going anywhere because Sam said so it doesn't matter.
Is that before or after he mentioned when we fail, what are we going to do?
No, that was when he mentioned that, right? We've been cursed to never going anywhere because of Sam, right, Sam? Nah.
Yeah.
We jest. So let's go ahead and move forward. We actually have a lot of news this week. So we have, first of all, we're going to go through our box office tops. We're going to look at what kind of movies have been doing good. Shawn, what do you think's number one? What do you think's number one, my friend? August 24th.
I don't know what opened this weekend.
August. I could rattle off a few. The biggest thing that opened was the Happy Time Murders. That was the biggest one. Something called AXL. I have no idea what the fuck that is.
Happy Time Murders looks good, but I don't think that'd be number one. That's kind of an acquired taste kind of thing.
Yeah. The Bookshop. None of these I've ever heard of. Searching. Papillion. 2018.
They remade Papillon?
I guess. Huh. Yeah, they did. Interesting. Okay. So
I don't know any of those, man, but it's kind of the end of, they should be, I don't know if we're reaching the dead zone of fall yet. I mean, I think they should still be releasing big things, but I don't know anything that's coming up. They got the Halloween thing, but that's October.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty
I don't know, man. Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Then I'm voting Happy Time Murders. It's the only thing that I've heard, which is weird because I'm the pop culture guru and I don't recognize any of those fucking things.
Yeah. Well, at number one, we have Crazy Rich Asians. Still sitting up at number one. 25 million for the weekend. It actually, I guess they didn't expect it to do as well as it did because they added a shitload of theaters to it. And from week 1 to week 2, usually you see a huge drop off, but it only dropped off about 5%. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's grossed about 76 million domestically with a budget of 30 million. At number 2, we have The Meg sitting at 13 million, pulling a total of 105 million with a budget of 130 million, sitting in its third week. At number 3, we have The Happy Time Murders, pulling 10 million for the first weekend, sitting at a budget of 40 million, again in its first week. At number 4, we have Mission Impossible Fallout, pulling 8 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of 193 million domestically, with a budget of 178 million in its fifth week. And finally, at number 5, we have Disney's Christopher Robin, sitting at 6 million, pulling a total of 77 million in its fourth week. So, a few additional. Slender Man pulled 2 million somehow, sitting in its third week at 25 million domestic. We have It's
just embarrassing.
We have Black K Klansman, which is sitting at 5 million with a total of 32 million domestically.
That looks funny.
Yeah, it did. We have Incredibles 2.
And also, dramatic, but
yeah,
funny.
Incredibles 2 managed 1.5 million over the weekend, so that's pretty cool. Jurassic World almost pulled 1 million, sitting at almost $500 million domestically. So it's probably close to $1 billion. Yeah, it's made $1.25 billion worldwide. It's made double what it did domestically foreign. Hey, you can't go wrong with dinosaurs. So that's about it. That's what the movies have been doing. You guys tuning in, you have anything that you have seen or hadn't seen? I haven't seen any of these movies. I did want to go see the Happy Time Murders, but I just haven't watched it yet. I was looking for someone to go with me. But it just recently released, so maybe sometime in the next week. But yeah, definitely. That's what's going on in the box office. What's doing well, what isn't doing well. And
the other thing I do, by the way, real quick, is I would move to fucking South Florida and make this shit a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah. What we'll do is we'll start, like, you know how those, like, big esports teams, they have a house, like a game house? We'll do that.
Yeah.
If we ever get, like, that big, we'll rent a big house, we'll have everyone live in it, and everyone will have their own respective PC, and then we'll do everything that way. I think that'd be fucking dope.
That's actually a fairly legit idea.
No, yeah, a lot of people do that shit. Like Funhouse does that shit. The people that own Funhouse does that shit. Rooster Teeth does that shit. A lot of
they're the building the Grumps bought for their office. They also have secondary rooms there where they can just crash there.
Yeah,
and sometimes they'll live there for weeks on end and not go back to their houses or apartments.
Yeah. Yes, that'd be a nice thing to do as well. What am I saying here? What else we got? All right. Next, we have our What to Look For segment. We have a shitload of games coming out over the course of the next week as we move into September. Our first one we have is called Blade Strangers, coming to PS4, Switch, and PC August 28th, as well as a game called Donut County, coming to PS4, PC, and iOS August 28th. We have Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate coming to Switch on the 28th. We have Pro Evolution Soccer 2019 coming to PS4, Xbox One, PC the 28th. Man, I got the really bad burps. We have Yakuza Kiwami 2 coming to PS4 the 28th. We have 2 Point Hospital coming to PC on the 30th. We have Divinity Original Sin 2 finally coming to PS4 and Xbox One August 31st. We have Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC August 31st. And we have Wasteland 2, which is supposed to be coming August of 2018. We're not too sure yet.
The sequel to the 1980s PC Wasteland?
Let's find out. Wasteland 2.
That was the inspiration for Fallout.
Oh, this is Wasteland 2. Oh, did it actually come out? Apparently it's got a review that came out in September. Maybe this is already out. Oof. Yeah, it's already out. That's what it looks like. It got a 9 out of 10.
Wow. That game is old as dirt, man. I actually have an original copy of Wasteland. Like, I have the box and everything. Like, I got it at a yard sale.
Wait a second.
For free.
Why did it say to be... This game came out in fucking 2015. What the hell? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a different Wasteland 2. Huh. Maybe it's a different Wasteland 2. I have no idea what this game is then. Oh, wait. Oh, it's coming to the Switch. That's why. Okay. But yeah. Apparently Wasteland 2 is coming to the Switch. I was confused. So it's not actually a new game coming out. It's a port coming to the Switch that was supposed to be happening in August. But it's still TBA, so I'm not too sure. None of these games really have me, besides Yakuza Kiwami 2, but I haven't played the first Kiwami. I think I should probably do that before I dive into the second one. I tried Original Sin on PC, and it just wasn't, the gameplay wasn't my type of game, so I never really got too far into that. And Naruto to Boruto is pretty much Overwatch with Naruto characters. It's kind of weird. Besides, it's not a first-person shooter, but it's like a team-based, objective fighting game. Like, it's interesting. I have no idea. So that's that. Nothing really super large coming, but I definitely have a few things to look forward to in the next week as we get ready for September. So with two big-ass releases, early September being Spider-Man and the Destiny 2 DLC that's coming out soon. So I don't give a fuck about Destiny 2, but the thing that they released for Cade, like his final moments, his like final fight was fucking badass, dude. Like that's like the coolest I've ever.
I just saw him die.
They released, it was a few days ago, they released like what led up to that moment, like the final fight with everyone breaking out and him like pushing off all these like big criminals. was really fucking cool. Like his final stand, it was like, again, it was some of the most badass I've ever seen Cade. It was really cool.
Cade's the best character in that game,
Yeah, he
and
is.
and I understand, like, if with what's his name, and God, I'm really sorry, I'm a brown coat and I can't think of his name right now, but with Nathan Fillion leaving, there we go. I understand why he can't continue. I mean, what Nolan North had to sub his voice in because he couldn't do the ending moments. And Nolan said that he wouldn't do it even if the job was offered. He's like, look, there's only one Cade. And Destiny may be a giant steaming pile of bullshit, but Cade was a good character, and he was memorable, and he was the best thing about that fucking game. And losing him, like, I am almost grieving the fact that I don't get to play that experience and see what happens to him. But I just can't, in good conscience, give fucking Bungie money for all the shit that they've done to us.
Yeah. I've heard that supposedly, again, quotations, that this is going to be like the biggest expansion and the biggest area for endgame content and all this other shit. But it's always that when a new Destiny thing's coming out, it's like, this is the definitive Destiny expansion. And then you're just like, well, it's been 3 days and I'm done with all the shit I could do. What now, Destiny? So they kind of have a problem keeping the endgame players around, sadly. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. See how the community responds to Forsaken. I'll probably be watching it closely. I probably won't be buying it, but I said that about the previous 2 expansions, and look how we got there. So, well, they weren't really expansions. Whatever. Content drops. This is like a full-blown expansion. It might be Destiny 2's Forsaken King, but should that be allowed? Like, is that okay? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. Why should they have to do that again? Go ahead.
I just want the fucking Cade statue that comes with the limited edition, but I just can't justify buying it.
No, yeah, I feel you. I understand why people still like the game, why people are cautiously staying away for it, or have just said completely fuck off, I'm not playing your games anymore, especially with it being so close to Spider-Man, and then we have games coming out in October right afterwards. It's like, am I really going to be playing this with everything else going on? Maybe not. So that's that. Let's move on to our news articles. We have a few things to go through. So a lot of really exciting news, actually. For some reason, if I let something fucking sit for too long, like a tab stay open for too long on GameSpot, it will go to like the next article, and it's annoying as shit. But apparently Cyberpunk 2077 is already completely playable from start to finish. Still no scheduled release date, though. This is by Jordan Ramey of GameSpot. CD Projekt Red has been developing Cyberpunk 2077 for the past 6 years. Although the developer has stated that there's more work to be done on the action RPG, the game is already playable from start to finish. In an interview with Engadget, Cyberpunk 2077 producer Richard Barzimowski said the game still doesn't have all of its assets, and the fixes for the bugs that were discovered in playtesting haven't been implemented yet. However, you can play through the entire game and see the story unfold, which Barzimowski says is important for finishing the game's development. Quote, playing through the game gives you the answers to all of your doubts, he said. It just feels great. Cyberpunk 2077 had a big showing at Gamescom 2018. CD Projekt Red's released new screens of the RPG that provided greater context for the game's world and also a tease a mystery for players to solve. Prior to that, we were able to sit down and delve into Cyberpunk 2077's gameplay as well as the blah, blah, blah. So yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 is a closer reality than we think. Definitely being completely playable from start to finish is really cool. Although they're still in the debugging stage, which can easily take another 1.5 to 2 years, depending on how big the game is off the bat, as well as final polishing. But still, I'd be super ecstatic, but I would not be surprised if this came out like fall 2019. At the earliest. If it came out like earlier next year somehow, I'd be completely blown away. That wouldn't be fucking possible. But if this came out like fall 2019, again, this is me optimistically thinking, I would be ecstatic. I'd be super excited to play this next year. But I'm thinking realistic would be mid 2020 to late 2020, if not 2021. But we'll see. I'm definitely excited to see what CD Projekt Red has in store for us at Cyberpunk 2077. If you've watched the streams, you know me and Shawn are fans of the cyberpunk genre, and we're excited to see CD Projekt Red's take on this like epic of a genre. It's really fucking cool. What are your thoughts on this, Shawn? Are you you're shaking in your boots? You're quaking?
Yes. It's a lot of yes.
That's not pee. That's not pee in my pants. What? Excuse me? I didn't do that.
I have been waiting for this game for a super long time. There's not been a next generation cyberpunk game of, I would say, intense enough caliber. I mean, I want to say bad because there's been some good cyberpunk flavored games, but it's not the cyberpunk experience I know and love. I've grown up reading the books. I've grown up playing the pen and paper RPGs. Like, cyberpunk is something I've lived and breathed. The only thing that I love as much as cyberpunk is gothic horror, vampire and whatnot. And there's just been more of one than the other for sure. So I am very, very excited and very, very looking forward to it. And I was a little upset that they went with a first person perspective, like, only because in terms of how you would think cyberpunk would be handled, it'd be something where you get to see your character and the augments and upgrades and things that you make to them and all that really cool stuff. So but it's okay. I'm not really that upset over it. It's just a little disappointing.
No, yeah.
But it's definitely not like a bad thing. It's just I was looking forward to seeing what everything looks like. But again, I don't know. That's just a minor gripe. I'm excited, and I think I'm not a huge fan of The Witcher, mostly because I just haven't played the previous games, and I don't start into a storyline midstream. But I've seen how good it is, and I think they're fantastic options for that game. I think Project Red's a really good choice for developing it.
Yeah, definitely. So, excitement abounds. I'm super excited as well. So, next, we have a little bit more information about Rage 2. Though this is an interview from Gamescom. This is done by Alessandro Filari of GameSpot. Quote, saying, Rage 2 wants to improve upon its predecessor and be a true open-world game. Releasing in 2011, Rage from id Software was the Doom developers' first attempt at open-world gameplay. Set 30 years after the original, Rage 2 moves far away from the first game's lackluster climax, opting for a fresh start in a more colorful and appealing post-apocalyptic setting. Co-developed with Avalanche Studios, the team behind the Just Cause series and Mad Max, the sequel will channel the developers' strengths for open-world thrills and shenanigans, coupled with the punchy action of id Software's style of gameplay. So basically, during QuakeCon, they spoke with Tim Willits, which is one of the studio director at id Software. Fucking forgot for a second. And I have a few questions here, and his response, I'm going to kind of condense it down into what he says about the interview, basically. So first, can you talk about the reception that has been thus far for Rage 2? It seemed like people had to overcome their surprise with seeing Rage again before becoming interested in what the sequel had to offer, which is basically me and Shawn, like, literally. So it's good to see that the rest of the community is having the same thoughts, like, why the fuck Rage 2? He's saying, yeah, the reception's been really great because people can see that Rage 2 will deliver on the promise that we had with Rage 1. Original game, one of the issues was that
promise?
I don't know. One of the issues, he's sweetening us up. You can get a sense for this feels like an id game, but we worked really closely with Avalanche's Apex engine on working with their team to making it more of an open world where scenarios are less linear and the story is more open. You kind of go anywhere and do anything. Moving on to the next question. When you look at Rage 2, are you constantly thinking that this is what the original game should have been? Will just says, yes, when we started with the original ways, we thought that the magic of mega texture technology was going to solve all these problems, but it didn't. So Rage 2 was always kind of the vision. We just were never able to execute it. So was having Avalanche Studios come on board in development an absolutely vital part in Rage 2 getting the green light? Basically, yes, we definitely wanted to do it, but we knew we needed that open world technology and a company with experience. So yes, I would say they were critical. Talking about other shit. I don't want to read all of this because it would take way too long. The style, or another question, the style and tone in this game feels more like the Mad Max Fury Road approach to the post-apocalypse, where there's a lot more color and personality. Was that a particular thing you wanted from the original game? Yes, a lot of movies and games set in the post-apocalypse tend to use every shade of gray and brown. So that's why we wanted to kind of push everything forward and get away from this type of post-apocalyptic world and make it more of a post-apocalyptic. What the fuck are you talking about, Willis?
What does that mean in English?
And a lot of that has to do with technology again, where we can build forests and swamps, water, and have this vegetation. There'll be many different biomes in the game, which each bring their own richness to the environment. What would you say were some of the biggest lessons you took away from working on the original game, which are more apparent now that you have spent time with the new game? Don't try and make an open world game with the technology that's not open world, which is exactly what he said. But people love to experience emergent gameplay, and that's signature Avalanche style. Rage really was too directed. It was too go here, now do this. There's much more freedom of choice, freedom of your ability to play the way you want. It's actually more approachable. Are you really free to move in any direction that you want? So you start in a home base, so we can teach you some basic mechanics and stuff. It's very typical. Once you leave the island, then yeah, that's it. You go anywhere you want. You can even go all the way to the end and try and fight the boss. More power to you. We have some key characters that you can interact with that kind of propel the story, and you need to do certain things to kind of move the progression along, but you can skip a lot of that as well. If you want, there's no real golden path. There are some golden things you should do before you go and fight the final boss. Kind of like the Zelda approach, Breath of the Wild approach. Focus on just kind of explore and make your own story kind of thing. And the final question was, what was one of the biggest challenges you had to face with this game? And Willett says, convincing everyone to do it, really. It was a really opportunity meets preparation. I mean, how often do you have Avalanche Studios that's wrapped up in a game, and most companies today, they lock themselves up for years. And then for us, the bulk of the team is working on the Doom sequel. But we have guys working on other projects. So it's just the timing of catching them at that moment when we were ready and they were ready. But you have to sell it to the people that you work with. Even in presentation we gave to the whole company, the second slide was Avalanche plus id, and most people were like, that's cool. I mean, you can't just call up a studio and say, hey, let's make a game. It's all huge things have to shift and move the lineup, like planets almost. So that's interesting. A little bit of more insight into Rage 2 and the direction they're taking the series. Now, knowing how I think I know who you are, Shawn, I could say that you were more turned off than you were previously to Rage 2.
Rage was boring, unimpressive. It wasn't fun. The plot didn't drive you. The driving mechanics were garbage. The shooting mechanics were average. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't compelling. It wasn't interesting. And any of the people that I know that were fans of things, even like Fallout or any of that stuff, they just didn't care. And if you can't make me care about something or want to play it, is boring. Like
yeah.
Who wants to be involved with that?
Yeah,
I don't understand I don't understand what I still think it was a dumb choice personally.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe it won't eat ass or be super stupid boring.
Yeah. Maybe. I like id, and I like the works that they've done. And from what I've seen from Rage 2, like at least gameplay wise, it feels like Mad Max Doom. Sort of feels like. Now if they could manage to translate that into a sprawling and interactive and interesting open world, I think this game could be quite good. Now, is it going to do well? I honestly don't think so. I don't know when it's even coming out, but it depends on when it does come out. If they find a good time to nail for this to release, where it's not surrounded by too much else, it might do well. I mean, I could imagine it coming out, no one really touches it for the first week, and then word of mouth gets out that it's really good, or something along those lines, and then people start picking it up. it's got me, again, cautiously interested. I'm not going to be pre-ordering this game. I might not even buy this game at launch. It really depends on what I see from gameplay as it's released and people play it and see kind of how it is. Because from what I saw from the gameplay reveal at E3, I was somewhat interested. I thought it looked cool. And anything that feels like Doom is a plus to me, because I loved the Doom reboot. It was fucking fantastic. So here's to hoping that it captures a little bit of that spirit, just in a different setting. And you never know. I'm again cautiously interested. So let's move forward. We got 2 more articles to go through before we get on to our main topic. We have coming from, again, Alessandro Filari of GameSpot, why Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is not the Souls game that you think. This is also a feature, so it might be a little long. Oh yeah, it's a little long. Okay, I'm going to try and paraphrase this shit. Looking at From Software Sekiro's Die Twice, it's clear that it's built on the foundations of the team's previous work on the Dark Souls series, focusing on an uncompromising and stoic design sense that rewards patient players who learn from their mistakes. The developer's next big title definitely channels some of the best of what their last 10 years of games have had to offer. However, Sekiro is a major shift away from the slower and more cautious playstyle of action RPG Dark Souls and even Bloodborne, moving further into the direction of what seems to be a traditional action game. Set in a heavily fictionalized take on Sengoku era Japan in 1500, you play as a shinobi who faces a brutal defeat at the hands of a rival samurai, losing their arm in the process. Defying death, the warrior is given a new arm by a mysterious monk who names him the One-Armed Wolf. From here, the main character begins his quest for revenge against the samurai and his clan to roam the lands. So you encounter beasts along the way and stuff like that. At its heart, Sekiro is a stealth action game, and many encounters involve getting the jump on an unsuspecting enemy for quick and efficient kills, or by avoiding packs of foes altogether. With the One-Armed Wolf's grappling hook, there's a stronger focus on verticality and movement throughout the levels, where gaining the high ground above your opponents can mean all the difference in your chances for survival. Though you're certainly free to engage them head-on, most areas are heavily guarded, and you can easily find yourself outmatched by ranged foes and close-range fighters. Like other titles from the Souls series, death plays a large role. While the One-Armed Wolf is an extremely lethal fighter, with gadgets and weapons that allow him to kill most common enemies, he's extremely vulnerable as well. You will die a lot in Sekiro, but as the subtitle of the game suggests, there's more to death than what it seems. Referred to, now this is a little bit controversial in the community, but referred to as the resurrection mechanic and used as somewhat of a tactical respawn, you're able to use up a life token, 2 at max, found from resting at sculptors' idols, especially bonfires, to instantly revive on the spot to pick up where you left. In most situations, you can wait for enemies to walk away, revive, and then sneak up for a kill with their guard down. But of course, the situation looks too dire, some enemies will choose to stick around your body. You can accept your death instead, which will send you back to the nearest sculptor's idol. So I've seen gameplay on this from Gamescom, and I definitely agree that it kind of has a Dark Souls feel to it, but it definitely everything about it looks, you're much faster. Stamina is not as big of a deal as it usually is. There's a lot of verticality like they were speaking of, and the game it feels like a speedier Dark Souls. Now, the thing about this is when people come to Dark Souls, it feels like everything they've done with Dark Souls that make people interested in it, they're moving away from, right? The whole thing where if you die, your souls are gone until you come back and pick them up. So there's a huge weight on you all the time, as like if I die at any moment, I'll lose a lot of the progress that I've had up to this point. That's technically gone. The slower, methodical combat with rolling and stuff like that, and trying to and understanding the moveset of your enemies, that's being pushed away as well. The slow movement and being heavily reliant, is that a proper sentence? I don't fucking know. But being reliant on your stamina is not as big of a deal. It feels like they're, again, like what the article was saying, that they're taking a bigger step away from the slower, methodical, intelligent gameplay of Dark Souls. So I don't know how I feel about this game. I don't know if I'm going to buy this game. When I look at this and then I look at Ghost of Tsushima, I feel like Ghost of Tsushima would offer more in the realms of just a kind of Civil War era Japan heavily fictionalized game that deals with samurai, and which is some of the appeal of Sekiro. But some of the other appeal of it was the fact that it was possibly a Dark Souls game. But the fact that they're taking steps away from that style and that the spirit that of the Dark Souls genre. I don't know how I feel about this game now. Now I know, Shawn, you haven't played much of Dark Souls besides just a little bit of Bloodborne. But what do you think about these changes that they might be making? Because right now, Dark Souls is done. We're not going to be seeing any more of Dark Souls. Now, the genre, the Souls genre will live on, and this is one of their first steps they're taking away from that. What do you think about this game? Do you think you'd get it?
I love the idea.
Like the idea of moving away from the Dark Souls, I almost said ideology, but the Dark Souls style. Okay. Would you be picking up Sekiro? Do you think that it interests you in any way?
I've been looking at it. Yeah, it interests me. I've been looking at it for a while now.
Now
I am very interested. I like all of what they're doing. I'm not in love with the Dark Souls idea. I don't mind it. I like it, but it's not like a must-have kind of situation for me. I grew up playing the Dark Souls version of 2D games. And so I don't mind having a game that's more about the adventure than the challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge is, it still sounds like it's going to be, God damn it. It still sounds like it's going to be challenging. So I don't think that'll be a huge problem. But in terms of what they're talking about with the changes, I don't mind them. I think it still sounds true. Plus, I like historical games a little bit. But I'm much more enamored with the fictional, fantastical elements mixed with historic elements.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very interested in seeing what they kind of do with that. Because to me, especially when you look at those histories, when you look at all of that, you have to keep in mind that there's a huge amount of mythology that gets mixed into their histories, and I've always found the mythology and the beliefs that go into samurai movies, they always mix in these kind of mystical elements that just seem to fit really well. So I think it's a good idea.
Now, I agree with that sentiment. I think the thing is just if I look at this game and I look at Ghost of Tsushima, and if I had to put the two together, because they share the same qualities, at least with the setting. It's like a fictionalized civil feudal war Japan kind of thing going on. I just think Ghost of Tsushima looks better in every way. I think a lot of what the Sekiro, what they have going for it is the fact that they have the fans from the Souls genre. Now, I think a lot of hardcore fans will still most likely pick up this game, but I don't know how many people they might put off with the idea that this is more of an action RPG than what the spirit of the Souls games was. Not that it's saying it's completely abandoning it, but they are taking steps of making it feel less like a Souls game than more like a Souls game. Now, I understand wanting to evolve your games or evolve your genre, but we've talked about it before that if you do that, you still keep the spirit of the game while adding in little things here and there that enhance that spirit. Not again, it's not completely abandoning it, but they're taking a lot of steps away from that spirit. But
it's not a Souls game. That's the flaw of the argument is it's not a Souls game.
The idea
it was
though
never
is that
meant to be a Souls game.
But it's been, the thing is it's like, if you look at the way that From Software has talked about it, they've always talked like we're not stepping away from the Souls genre. We're gonna keep doing Souls things. We're gonna keep evolving the spirit of the Souls genre. We're just not gonna be doing Dark Souls anymore. We're stepping away from that universe, but we're still pushing forward the gameplay you'd see in a Souls game into other settings, other elements, other things like that. So I don't know. I don't know because the way I've seen it from the marketing.
Did they promise that this one was going to be a Souls game?
As far as
I never read I read that From Software was making it, but I never read any promises that this was supposed to be another Souls game. I just read that the experts who were really good at making challenging games were making another challenging game.
I don't know. I'm not too sure. I don't know if they've directly said it or not directly said it. I'm not going to sit here and Google it because I don't know if I'd be able to find it. But from what I heard, I don't know. It just feels like everything that they've done, the way they marketed it initially, it felt like it was, even when they had the internet blew up, because for a second they thought we were getting a second Bloodborne. Because of the way they marketed it, they were very, it wasn't straight up. It felt like the marketing that they've used for prior things that existed to this genre. And the game is still a hard game. Like, they're still saying, like, this game is going to be difficult. And I mean, if they just wanted to make an action RPG, they could just make an action RPG. If they wanted to step away from the Souls game, or if they didn't want it to be related with Souls games, they could have easily done that by not making it difficult. But the fact that it's still pushing the idea that, like, this game's supposed to be hard, you're supposed to die a lot. There's elements there that make people think it should be a Souls game. They have fucking bonfires. They have all these things that exist to a Souls game. Why would it not be a Souls game, or attempting to be a Souls game, if they have all these elements that pre-existed in other games that were like it, with the death mechanic, with losing stuff, again, with the bonfires, with it feels like it's supposed to be a Souls game. That was, from everything I've seen from it. That's why I have that preconceived notion that that's what it is. Because if they didn't want to make a Souls game, they wouldn't have made one. They wouldn't have added all these elements that existed in the other titles. That's the only reason that I don't think they've directly come out and said this is or this isn't supposed to be one. I think if everything that they've done has made us feel like this is going to be the next game of this genre kind of thing, because of the elements that they've implemented in it.
Maybe they could have done better marketing or something, but I don't think that it's. I'm not disappointed by any means. I thought Bloodborne was really interesting. It's the balance in those games is a little weird to me. But for it doesn't bother me. Essentially, I'm not one of those people that's disappointed.
No, I couldn't say I'm technically disappointed, but I much rather get like Code Vein when that comes out, which is pretty much in exactly a Souls game, because that's what I'm looking for, than something from the actual developer that made the games that is taking steps away from a Souls game. You kind of get what I'm saying? Because if I wanted to play a Souls game, I'd play a Souls game. If I wanted to play an action RPG, I'd play something like Ghost of Tsushima, which looks leagues better because it puts the attention to things that aren't. It's more of the attention, because it feels like it's like a weird hybrid, but it doesn't exactly fall to one thing. So you have alternatives that do better. Can you get what I'm saying? I don't know. It's fucking weird. I'm not buying it. I don't think I'm going to buy it, because if I wanted to play a Souls game, I'd get a Souls game. And I'm sure the moment that I could tell you 100%, and it doesn't say anything about us, but the community was not happy when they found out there wasn't Bloodborne 2 and stuff like that, because everyone wants Bloodborne 2, and I think they could that game would sell incredibly well if they just made a fucking Bloodborne 2. Now, power to them to doing whatever the hell they want. It's their IP. They can do whatever the fuck they want with it. But I'm just saying, I don't know the reception of this game and what it's going to be like. But we never know. We'll see what happens. But seeing for what I saw from Gamescom, I can't say I'm any more or any less excited than what I was prior. So, excuse me. So we have one more article. It's a little interesting. We've talked about this before, but it's as we're getting closer to release, EA has done some stupid shit regarding this. But this is an article that says Battlefield 5 dev says that it's a, quote, shame Battlefield 1. God damn it, Bruce. Battlefield 1 didn't initially include women. Quote, I don't think it's a bandwagoning thing. It's about gamers wanting to express themselves in different ways. This is by Jordan Ramey of GameSpot. DICE has received backlash since the announcement that women would be included in Battlefield 5. There are many who accuse the developer of pursuing an agenda, bending historical accuracy to jump on the, quote, bandwagon of gender and racial inclusivity. DICE executive
They've admitted to it.
Yeah, no. And they straight up, and I'm going to read the article and we'll talk about it real quick, how we feel about the situation. Alexander Grondel disagrees, even saying he wishes his team had initially included women in 2016's Battlefield 1. Apparently, everyone fucking forgot about the fact that there was a woman in the single-player campaign, but whatever. Quote, I mean, if we were getting on the bandwagon, I created Battlefield 1, and we could have jumped on the bandwagon that time around. Grondel told Games Radar. DICE did eventually add female Russian soldiers to Battlefield 1 in the name of the SAR DLC, but women were not prominently featured in the multiplayer prior. Grondel continued, quote, I think it's a shame we didn't add women because that perhaps would have been better for us. I don't think it's a bandwagon thing. I think about gamers wanting to express themselves in different ways. If you take a look at Battlefield historically, it's about expressing yourself through gameplay, solving problems the way you want to, and these characters...
No, it isn't.
And these characters fall perfectly in line with that thinking. Gamescom 20...
What the fuck is this guy doing? Did he play the same game?
At Gamescom 2018, DICE has unveiled 2 trailers for Battlefield 5 and made several announcements. The trailer depicted the bloody Battle of Rotterdam and teased the first real glimpse of Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode. I forgot about that. It was followed a few days later by another trailer that details how you will customize your own company of soldiers, from classes to weapons. The beta's coming. It launches on October 19th. Okay. So one thing that EA did earlier is they said straight up, and I quote, you could probably find it just Googling it, because if I tell you the article, it's not going to matter. But EA said, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Straight up. Said told the community.
Yeah, the guy that got fired.
Yeah. I wonder why he's gone. No, I'm just fucking. It could be any level of reasons why he's gone. But he's also the same dude that thought, hey, the microtransactions are doing so well in FIFA. Let's fucking put him in Battlefront too. So maybe it's a good thing that he no longer works with EA. But he straight up told everyone, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Basically told the community, hey, go fuck yourself. We're not going to fix it. You're stuck with it. Hell yeah. Which now one thing is to be completely clear on what's going on here. People's issues with the game is not that there's women in it. You look at Battlefield 1, there were women in Battlefield 1. There was a woman in the single player campaign. I forget what it's called, but it was the one in the desert. She was there, but it made sense. You played as a woman. It made sense though. What we have in this horrendous shit show dumpster fire of a marketing campaign has been a push to things that do not make sense for a World War II game. If you had a man with disabled with a prosthetic arm on the front lines in Battlefield, you would get the same exact reaction that we are getting now with a woman with a prosthetic arm. If you had a man with fucking body paint, which we do. We have fucking Kratos in Battlefield for some reason. If you had Kratos in Battlefield for some reason, which we do.
Oh yeah, she's a picked. That's another thing.
One more time?
She's a picked.
What does that mean?
Picked were the ones that painted their faces like that.
Oh. If you had it's not the idea that there's a woman in a game and that's bad. That's not it. Now there may be a very small percentage of the community that is complaining about that, but the larger grand scheme sentiment of everyone that does not like what they are doing with Battlefield 5 is the fact that we are taking steps towards Call of Duty. We don't want fucking Call of Duty. We try to stay away from Call of Duty. Call of Duty is about pushing character customization and ridiculousness. That's fine. They can do that. That's okay. The way that they are and the things that they've done, they've always been about the arcadey side of war. Battlefield, if you look at the stuff to Battlefield 1, the marketing, the Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, they've always been about trying to push a semi-realistic depiction of combat. Is it realistic? No fucking way. You got people crashing planes into tanks and shit, but that's just because you're in a multiplayer game. They still have tried to push a semblance of realism with their games. They take the extra mile to make sure the sound design is super good so it feels like you're in combat. They make the weapons, the models realistic so it feels like you're actually holding and shooting that gun. They take the steps to making it feel like you're in combat. Now, with the marketing campaign, the game's probably going to be good. I don't give a fuck. Am I going to buy it? I may not. I don't know. But I also just don't like EA and the way that they treated their community over this whole, I'm going to call it a conspiracy because it technically is one, or not a conspiracy, a controversy, my bad. This whole controversy has been lackluster at best, basically telling the fans to go fuck themselves. That's just not something I want to support. And I'm sorry for DICE that they've been this way, but the fact that now they're coming out and saying, "Oh no, we're not pandering. What? We're not pandering. We could have put women in Battlefield 1 on launch." Well, I'm sorry, DICE, but did you play your game? I'm pretty sure you did. I played a woman in the single player campaign, and I thought it was pretty badass. It was really cool. Now, am I mad that there was a woman? No. It fit. It made sense. She wasn't even I don't even think she was connected to a specific army. She was just protecting her village. I don't remember exactly. She might have been some kind of secret ops member. Were there women in World War II? Yeah, there were.
To a degree.
Yeah.
There were guerrilla fighters in France, the French
And
Legion.
Russia.
And Russia, yeah. Well, the Russian conscripted women in. And France lost quickly and badly. And so there was something called the French Underground. And there were women fighters, not a lot. There were not a lot of women on the ground in World War II, period. But there were small groups in Russia. There was a decent, I'd say a decent amount in Russia once they ran out of guys because half the guys were dying and starving. There was one famous one in France, but there was some in France. And if you had guerrilla fighting, which, and I quote, is not military. Guerrilla fighting is mom and pop fucking fighting back. It's on the streets. It's normal people trying to fight back. These are not trained soldiers normally. They're just desperately trying to get you the fuck away from their houses. All right, but there were women that fought for their homes. But here's a big thing about war: when you are crippled, you are done.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to fight. When you are missing an arm, you are not going back out on the battlefield to fight again. Your days of fighting are done. If you cannot fight at 100% all times, you are a risk. A massive risk, and that massive risk costs people lives. So if you have a bum arm, a bum leg, you lost an eye, it doesn't matter. You're done. Your career is over. There may be exceptions to this here and there, but I guarantee you they're few and far between. And if you're missing a fucking arm, it's over. And do not quote me on this, but I am very, very sure that the prosthetic arm that they keep showing us is not something that was around back then. Maybe they did their research. Maybe it was. I seem to remember the whole attachment thing that allows you to open and close claws was more recent, like 60s or 70s or some shit like that. But maybe it wasn't. I could be wrong. But that part isn't really what gets me. The bionic arm is stupid and shouldn't be there if you're going for realism, which they have always tried to go for something that's a little bit. Yes, it's a video game. A video game is never going to be a realistic shooter. I get it. And that's true. But you are not going to have a crippled woman because she wasn't a guerrilla fighter. They weren't guerrilla fighting. Those were soldiers.
They were in uniform.
That was a unit. So you were not going to have a crippled, and I think she was British.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a crippled British chick with a bionic arm on the front lines functioning in a unit. If they were there special ops women back then, I don't remember what they called them, but there were special units. Did they employ women? I don't believe so. And if they did, I know they had some spies.
Yeah, I think a lot of
say in the odd instance that they did, that's fine. All right, it was rare, but it was fine. Then when you're doing your little pitch, when you're selling this game, one of the first things you can mention was I was inspired by the story of this particular person who fought with this army, who blah, 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 and we wanted to include a character like that in this game. Problem solved right away.
Yeah.
But to sit there and because the whole way that trailer plays out does not play out like a trailer that isn't pushing an agenda. It plays out very much like one that does. And the reason why I say that is because she's featured prominently. She gets knocked down like 17 times. Should have been dead the first time because she's gunned down. Constantly comes back. She's pulling off Superman moves with a crippled arm, and I'm telling you right now, crippled soldiers weren't allowed out there. If they had just changed a few tiny things, you know, she didn't come in with the army. She came in with some guerrilla fighters and ended up falling in with this unit for the story. But even then, they would. It's very unlikely. I just can't find a believable story scenario where any of that makes sense.
No, yeah.
Why they would allow her when she was crippled. Why she would insist on being out there when she's a risk to other soldiers. Not because she's a woman, but because she is crippled. That's not. I mean, it's not her fault, but she's fucking. You've got to be kidding me. Yeah. And when the guy who was the project guy came out and said, "I was at home with my daughter and we were watching Fortnite an advertisement."
Thing. Fuck me.
Yeah.
Dude.
And yeah, he said, "I'm at home with my daughter and we're watching a trailer for a video game," and she's like, "Daddy, why aren't there any girls there? I can be a girl in Fortnite," which by the way, Fortnite, completely different game, completely different mythology, completely doesn't matter. But if you're making a World War II game, the odds of there being a female soldier is slim to none. The odds of there being a female soldier who's crippled is non-existent. The odds of there being a male soldier who is crippled and allowed to function on the front lines and is a superhero badass is non-existent. So that was originally the only point. This is really dumb. Why are you doing this? Why is there somebody with a bionic arm on the field? Why? And then it becomes turned into an issue of sex when that was never the issue.
Yeah, no. And you know what?
With the exception of trolls and assholes, that wasn't a thing.
It could have been an issue for a small percentage of the community, but what happens is, because it's the most prominent thing, because the marketing campaign was fucking garbage, because it was the most prominent thing, it's the thing people go to. I mean, there's other issues. There's 100 issues. People jumping out of second-story buildings, crashing through windows, fucking Mission Impossible style. That's an issue. It doesn't look like a Battlefield game. It looks like the next Call of Duty. That's an issue. People are complaining about these things, but because the most prominent thing, the thing that they feature the most, is the woman with the prosthetic arm, it gets brought up the most. So, you know, people, they lump everyone together. All gamers are sexist. They're all douchebags. They're all sexist. And they don't want women in video games. They're not going to buy the game because there's a woman in the video game. Because it's the thing that gets brought up
It's a way for them to, they can deflect the criticism that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid. And we're bringing this out again, because we talked about it once already, to talk about the fact that we are mad because we're seeing something happen to something that we love that is taking it away from the spirit of what it is. This game could be good. It could be a good shooter. That's fine, man. But this marketing campaign and the way EA and DICE have dealt with this situation, this backlash, has been so piss poor and shitty that it makes me not want to buy the game. At this point, not even because of what's going on with it, but because of the way that they've treated the community. They've treated us, I don't even play Battlefield that much, but they treated everyone like fucking dog shit. They're saying, yeah, just don't buy it, man. Just don't buy the game. And look at that. The pre-orders are tanking by 85%. Oh, shit. This game might be the worst-selling Battlefield in the history. I wonder why. And then here, the 24th, 2 days ago, people come out and they're still defending this act and coming up with things to make it, again, about women and make it more about a sex thing that women can't be in video games, just to further it. And they're trying to defend, we're not bandwagoning, but we're going to make another thing talking about how we should have put women in earlier to bandwagon. Excuse me?
Yeah. When you sit there and say, thought about it, and I was like, why can't women be included in a war game? Why can't my daughter play something that reflects her? Why can't there be a girl there? You know, that immediately, as soon as you say that, as soon as that becomes your response, you're like, well, why can't she play somebody? Why can't she play a character that she identifies with? He didn't say, it's true, there were women in World War II. Why can't I include one in there because she's got a point? He didn't say that. He said, why can't I include her in a character that makes her feel a certain way? and reflects her as a woman, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was his fucking statement.
Yeah.
That is your proof and that is him point blank saying, no, you're absolutely correct.
I'm pandering.
It was an agenda.
Yeah.
You know, I'm putting that in there because I want her to be included. Not because if he had said this isn't meant to be realistic, if he had said this isn't just another Battlefield game, we're going for realism, we wanted to provide an account of like what if women were part of it. If they had just been honest about it from up front, I don't think you would have had any of this. But your gamers are going to call you on your bullshit when you lie to them.
No, 100%. I agree.
You know, and they lied. They said it was going to be something it wasn't. And in all honesty, if they had just been honest about that, I don't think there would have been any problems.
Yeah, definitely.
I really don't.
And the fact that they're not even they're just trying to push it aside. If you go to like the Battlefield's page, there's nothing coming up trying to dissuade or kind of pacify the community.
Did you see the new trailers?
I haven't actually watched them, but I know
they cut her out completely. She's not in it.
Huh.
They cut her out of all the new media that I've seen so far. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's really frustrating to me that the fact that you're making something. People are rewriting history now with the current narrative. They're rewriting it as inclusive. You can't have it is. We can both agree it is morally and ethically inappropriate to, in this day and age, with this level of awareness, for us to cast a white guy with blackface as an African king, or a white guy as an Egyptian king when they should be Arabic, or a white guy as a Chinese or Japanese or Korean character with yellow face. We can agree that whitewashing is inappropriate. Yet, it is perfectly acceptable to take a historical character that was white and have another race play them. It is perfectly acceptable to take a battlefield that had no women and put female heroes on the battlefield and claim it as historically accurate. They're still claiming Battlefield as being a historically accurate game. You did not have crippled soldiers on the battlefield. You did not have crippled women on the battlefield. One person points that out, and they immediately try and spin it as a hate crime, as ignorance, as prejudice, when it is not. You have always given us as historically accurate a possible game while it's still enjoyable to play as a game. So when you take a bunch of historic people, my vocabulary is carrying me, people who are big on history and playing these Battlefield games over Call of Duty, because even though Call of Duty has some realistic physics and some realistic gun behavior and has always been just a little bit edge up on your standard shooter, military style shooter, Battlefield has always edged it out in realism and edged it out in performance, which is why a lot of those guns in Battlefield 1 were so fucking difficult to use. And now you have an audience that is eagerly awaiting a return to World War II, and you put a lie in the trailer that had nothing to do with World War II. She's not a guerrilla fighter. She's part of she's part of that unit. And if it's a story, and she's an element of you can come out and say, hey, she's not part of the organized thing. She is tagging along with them. There is a little bit of Hollywood in there. Of course, the military wouldn't have allowed that, but we're putting that in there because we think it's a compelling story. Or at the very least, if they wanted to do that, set it in France. Give us a battlefield in France. Give us a Battlefield French Underground like they did with Medal of Honor. Boom. Problem solved.
Yeah.
You still, and because she's a guerrilla fighter, nobody's going to stop her from fighting without an arm, because the guerrillas would take anybody they could get.
No, definitely.
Because they were just trying to get them the fuck out of France. Like, that's all they had to do.
Yeah. Also,
that's what's frustrating. You lied to us. You made something that disrespects, and it's like Battlefield 1. We want to make a game that respects all the soldiers that fell in the war,
exactly.
Respects their memory, and also gives people a chance to experience that. Battlefield 5, LOL, women in combat. This shit's dope. Like, what are you trying to say? Are you really respecting the women resistance fighter that fought and died? Are you really trying to respect the concept of war that happened back then? Because it's not the same as it is now. We didn't have women soldiers, and people who were not able to fight at 100% weren't on the field.
Yeah.
That's why people got angry, and it wasn't a massive amount of vitriol until they talked back.
Oh yeah, no. A lot of this, they could have easily. Now, EA would never do this because that's fucking EA. But if they would sit down, make a video explaining, hey, we're going to go forward with this. This is our take on World War II. It's a slightly fictional take. Something different happened here or there. It wouldn't have caused anywhere near the issue that we have now, the controversy that we have now. Because then people would understand, hey, this is more of a fictional take. This Battlefield isn't really for me. I play Battlefield for that, the kind of realistic aspect, and this one's kind of pushing it in a different way. That's fine. I understand this is the intention of the developers. That's not really that bad. I mean, you still probably would have some back talk with it. People would have still probably gotten mad because, hey, this kind of sucks. I gotta wait for the next Battlefield. This isn't really what I'm looking for in a Battlefield game. But if they would have done that and actually respected their community instead of saying, oh, dude, you don't like it? Just don't fucking buy it, man. Just don't fucking buy it, dude. Like acting like literally children, like just pushing their problems away and trying to hide them. It's completely nonsensical that they would expect this game not to tank the way that they've treated their community. It is fucking absurd.
They did a game on PS1, Medal of Honor French Underground, and albeit there was some really dopey shit in there, like Nazis wearing medieval armor for some reason, if I remember correctly. The NPC, the woman who radios you and commands you, is a French resistance fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the tech wasn't advanced enough back then to give you tons of NPCs running around on the field, but if it was, she would have been fighting next to you.
Mm-hmm.
You were, if I remember correctly, and it's been a while, you were an American unit that is sent into France to assist the underground that's fighting there. So, and again, it's been a long time. Don't fucking flame me with responses if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I played it, but it is completely easy to. I mean, if they obviously it is popular and it's selling stuff with SJWs now to be more inclusive, and overall, that is a better way to do things. Overall, it is better to have, some representation for people that have not gotten that reputation.
Yeah.
Or not reputation, that presentation. It's good to have trans characters and gay characters and Latin characters and black and Chinese and all that shit. They've always been there, but they've never been there to the degree that they are now. And I think that is wonderful. And I think that is important. And there are 1,000,001 ways for you to create a historically accurate combat game to be able to hold on to your credentials and not make it a joke. And they turned her from the potential to be a good character and a powerful statement for women into a joke. And it does not respect how the military functioned. It's not realistic. And if you want to say that people are fanboys and that they're being misogynist because they were expecting a realistic game, that's full of shit. If they're sitting there and saying horrible things about women, that's one thing. If they are upset because a woman is in the game, that's one thing. But the reason they are upset isn't because a woman is in the game. It's because of how she's depicted and how the character's functioning. And if you can't recognize that, if you're so stuck on this narrative thing that you can't even give people the credit of what they're actually saying, that's really disappointing to me. And when we've got a culture now that is perfectly willing to rewrite history to promote inclusivity, that worries me. Because if you can't remember how things were, how are you going to respect the kind of progress we've made?
Exactly.
And when does the line stop when you can rewrite reality to your whim and try and tell other people how they're supposed to think and feel? And if they don't agree with you, then they're a bad person. If you're on the same side, everything's fine. But the moment the moment it stops being us and starts being them, all of a sudden there's some sort of crime being committed, and the morality police have to get involved.
Yeah, and you're just at that point, everyone's just spewing hate at each other. And one other reason one of these problems exists, and we've said it before, I smacked the fuck out of my mic, is when people get mad on the internet, no one sits. And now it's not exactly the easiest thing with the way that social media is set up to actually sit down and talk with someone else, but no one puts forth the effort to try and understand the position the other person's coming from. It immediately goes to labeling that person, which exactly is what's going on here. If someone doesn't like the decision you made and they're not happy about it, even if they're mad or the way that they say it is fucked up or stupid, no one takes the effort to listen to the other person's point of view when it comes to these. It immediately goes to either hate spewing or labeling someone to kind of push them away and denounce their opinion. Oh, someone can straight up go on, although all of the comments now are pretty much just memes, but like you can go up and
some good ones in there.
You can go. There was one. Like,
that's why I heard that fucking thing. Like Battlefield 1, honor the fallen soldiers. Battlefield 2, yo man, that shit was lit. Yeah. Like I read that on the fucking comments to the trailer, dude. There's some great ones in there.
Yeah. I saw one that was like Battlefield 5. It was the picture, but this is Battlefield vagina instead of Battlefield. So did you read the one
about the wheelchair the wheelchair transsexual Black Ops unit?
Yeah,
that's gonna be the first DLC or some shit like that.
Yeah, the LGBT expansion. Yeah, I've heard them all, dude. And again, like usually there's always people that come out to make fun of these situations because it can get a rise out of someone. And usually that's the attempt. But for the people that are genuinely trying to have a conversation with each other and explain like, oh, hey, like this is not what I expected out of Battlefield. This is not the direction I like this series to go. I'm just not a fan of it. And then for someone to come at you say, oh, you just don't like women then. Okay, lol, that easy. All right. Well, I'm going to denounce you for now. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. Or even the other side. Someone comes out and says, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm down with this. And people say, oh, you like SJWs too? And you have like dyed hair and shit. And just immediately to denounce and label someone, it's stupid. No one learns if no one's talking.
I still want to play the game. It looks good as fuck.
No, yeah. It's and just, I ultimately
it's very upsetting what they've said. That's the part that pushes me away.
No, definitely. And I ultimately think the game will be a good game. I think DICE is a good developer, but I could easily side with someone that doesn't buy this game on just the idea alone, the way they've been treated by EA and DICE. Like the way that that DICE has dealt with this and EA has dealt with this whole controversy to basically push it away, denounce it. People that are trying to have a conversation are being pushed back and labeled. And it's just this whole hate spewing fest, and EA's just practically watching, and they're kind of like maybe throwing a match in, trying to start a fire here and there with the way that they've talked to the community, like, oh, if you don't like it, don't buy it, go fuck yourself, kind of thing.
You can always tell when they've kicked in, when it's a sales ploy, when they're using a narrative to sell something, which is what they've been denying. You can always tell because the moment a criticism pops up, they immediately pull the Ghostbusters and go, oh, well, you're a misogynist. If you don't want to watch this movie, you hate women. If you don't like this movie, if you think the trailer looks stupid, you hate women. Like that was the immediate knee-jerk response that EA gave us when people started saying, hey, this doesn't look right. You've got a woman with a prosthetic hand on the battlefield. Like, there's two things that don't ring very true here. Now, women have been on the battlefield, but this is really pushing it. What's going on here? When your first reaction is, oh, you're a misogynist, and if you don't want to you don't like this in our game, then don't play the game. When that's your first reaction, you have that shit canned and ready to go.
Yeah, no, yeah. Definitely.
Like that response was almost immediate. And when you're doing that, you are immediately banking on getting the sympathy of the SJW crowd, because unfortunately, when you've got extremes like that, people are, as soon as you basically give the war cry and they're going to come running.
Yeah. And even if you look at
it happens every single time,
even the thing with the Fortnite thing, like that whole talk, that quote, all of that had nothing to fucking do with the game. Had nothing to do with the main reason of the controversy, the main reason of all this had nothing to do. And it just, like you said before, and I didn't even think about it, but it so fucking revealed that the intentions is to push an agenda. And I don't like that. I don't like acting like this. I don't like feeling like this, especially about something that I do enjoy. And I don't like not buying this game. I want to see more Battlefields. But I think in these situations, it's almost like a win for the consumer, because this is something, hey, we're putting our fucking foot down. The same thing happened with Battlefield. What they saw, everything that was going on with that, with the progression system being so based around spending money on these boxes and stuff, people put their fucking foot down. EA eventually retracted. They said, hey, we'll take them out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're still pushing out shit today to try and receive and bring back a percentage of the people they lost with the shit that they pulled. And people are wising up to this stuff. And it's in one way, one thing you could take out of all this, besides the hate spewing and the labeling and pushing people down, denouncing their opinions, stuff like that, is the fact that the consumer has stomped their fucking foot down and is showing EA, hey, that you can actually affect numbers by being a cunt to the people that are buying your game. And this would be the second lesson that EA has learned this. So I can easily say, people saying, I'm giving up. I don't want to touch EA shit anymore. A lot of people have done that. And now, will there be a percentage of the gaming community that will just look at the game and buy it because it looks cool? Fuck yeah. Battlefield will still make a lot of money. But if you look at Battlefield 1, and it was close, I think it even pulled ahead of the sales of Call of Duty. And then now, tanking by 85%.
Battlefield suffered because it didn't. More of Battlefield's suffering was because they didn't. Their first expansion came 6 months after the game dropped. Call of Duty drops new maps like every other month.
Well, the first Battlefield sold.
They fucked the expansion up.
Well, a lot of people
sold well, but the player count drifted like almost immediately because you didn't support it with content. That they had good content drops and they were big content drops, but they didn't come in time. It doesn't. You need to have your shit halfway finished when you release the game, so that when you do drop that game, it's not a long time until the next part of it comes out. You know, the next DLC content.
Yeah.
Because you're developing that as games as a service, so you know that you've got shit in the pipeline. But 6 months for a content drop, like I could take that for an RPG, like what was that? The Goofy Storybook one that we played the shit out of. Ni no Kuni.
Yeah,
that's got content coming. It still hasn't come out, and that was like what That was about 6 months to a year ago.
6 months.
When did we get that?
I think like 6 months.
Yeah, and they still haven't dropped it. And you know what? Not a big deal. I paid for the fucking pass. When it comes out, it comes out. I'm not worried about it. It's not a game as a service. That's not the way that game's going to function.
No.
So, I mean, that's not a big deal. But when you've got something like this with Battlefield, they really fucking foobarred the whole process. They foobarred the shit out of it because they didn't have the content to come out in time. And most of the industry pundits that have talked about it have named that as the reason why it failed. That I've read.
Yeah.
They came under a lot of fire for that.
And I would agree. I see that as also definitely a big factor here. Also the fact that we're releasing between, what the hell was that noise? I heard a weird noise. We're releasing between two also really big games. Obviously Call of Duty is always a big thing, and also Red Dead Redemption's there too. And when people see these three things, if they go and look for Battlefield, they're like, Battlefield 5, let's see what's going on with this. And the first thing they see, if you Google the thing, is people complaining on the Reddit, is the trailer full of like troll comments and a huge dislike ratio and all this stuff. Because normally people will be like, oh, hey, usually the normal gamer won't really necessarily see this controversy. But with something this big, all they do is a single Google search looking at the game, looking for gameplay or anything, Battlefield 5. And for the first thing to pop up is this entire controversy with all this shit and the sentiment being negative towards this game from almost the entire community. After all this shit, it will get to a portion of that casual gamer base that wouldn't necessarily be involved in these like bigger conversations on Reddit or things like that. It will get to them if they do any form of research. Now, so again, there is still a percentage that doesn't even fucking do that. And it's just like, I could buy 1 to 2 games a year. I'm going to pick up Call of Duty and Battlefield, whatever. There are people that do that. Genuinely people that do that. They only get a few hours to play games a week, and they stick to games like that. They could jump in and out really quickly. That's fine. And that Battlefield will still make money. Now, it will, according to pre-orders, it will not do anywhere near as well as Call of Duty or Red Dead Redemption. But it's nice to see the win here on the consumer side, because we're very pro-consumer, as we've said before. And for seeing these our opinions and people's opinions being heard, and people actually taking a step, like, hey, putting their money where their mouth is, voting with their wallet. That's what people are doing right now. They are voting with their wallet. They don't like the way that they've been treated by EA and DICE. They don't like the way that they don't feel like they have a lot of weight in the eyes of these two companies. And if that's the case, you're gonna see dips here and there. I never really say I want something to fail, but if you're gonna treat your player base like shit, you're gonna need to learn a lesson one way or another. And EA usually gets away with it, but I'm thinking people are starting to wise up to their bullshit and saying, "Hey, dude, EA guys, eat a Snickers. You're being a bunch of cunts." I mean, I don't know what else I could tell you. You're really pissing me off here. So that's just kind of ours. Do you have anything else to add here, Shawn? We're getting close to the end of our show here. That'll pretty much be the main topic. We did have another one, but we spent way too much time here. So we'll just save that one for next week. But I think it was very good conversation.
I would like to say that I want to send at least some. I know this doesn't really mean much for the people who have lost someone, but the folks that were hurt or killed in that video game tournament, that is completely unacceptable. And I don't know. My sentiment goes out to them and their families. My love goes out to them, because that's horrible.
Yeah, some context, if you haven't heard, although you probably have, is there was a shooting at a Madden tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. And as far as from what we understand, there were like 11 shot and 4 were killed. So we're just, again, real quick, that our love goes out to those people. It's definitely a shitty thing, but it has happened. So the next thing here is to learn from this, like what was going on with security at the stadium or at the function. How did this young gentleman get a weapon into there and was uncontested for so long? All that stuff. So just keep in mind that, not to be a downer at the end of the podcast, but that we do feel for those people, and that it's definitely a rough situation. So I think that's about it. Shawn, you got anything else to add for Battlefield 5 though? Anything? Final thing?
No, I'm just it annoys me. You're trying to put words in my mouth. You're trying to say that I feel or act a certain way when I do not. And to be honest, I wasn't that bothered by the character. I thought it was stupid. And Battlefield doesn't normally put stupid things in, but I've never heard of a crippled soldier on the battlefield. So it was a little disappointing to me that they abandoned the realism of the game. But I didn't become emotionally involved until they started throwing off those fucking comments. And once that happened, I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
EA does it again. That's probably going to be the name of this episode. EA does it again. Yeah, I agree. At this point, it's a good thing that people are stepping their foot down, like we've said. And we could just kind of see what happens. See how the sales go. See if EA learns their lesson. We don't know. If you guys were tuning in, you do have an opinion to share here or there. Maybe we put something wrong, or we disagreed with something that you had, that you thought about. Feel free to let us know, either through the comments in the video, on Discord. Feel free to add us, and just, again, open that avenue for conversation. A lot of this, the good things about these controversies, again, is it opens up ways for us to speak with each other, get an idea of people's opinions, get an idea of what people feel about these situations, and the things that just how they feel. And it's awesome. Jesus, my phone. And it's awesome to just hear from you all in the community, the ones that do tune in. We kind of get an idea of the people that do listen to us. And that conversation, I always enjoy it, no matter what it is, even if it gets heated into a debate or anything like that. I always enjoy that conversation. I always look back at it fondly. So if you could let us know if you think something interesting, we said something interesting or something you didn't know about or something you do know about that we don't know about, feel free to let us know either through Discord, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, anything like that. We would appreciate it. So as we are getting ready to close out our show this evening, episode 63 of the Thought Patrol podcast, Shawn, hit him with the golden line of the night. What everyone comes here for.
This is all your pink parts.
Hell yeah. That's what everyone comes here for. No one gives a shit about anything else, but that makes their week. Makes my week, at least. So, before we go, I'm going to leave y'all with a thought. Not as big of a thought as last week, but definitely interesting. Golf courses cover 4% of North America.